This is in continuation to our earlier video where we had shown different parts of an engine. We have further stripped down this engine and now we are in a position to show you the different parts. Strip open. It has been, you can see here, this is your crankshaft. This is your crankshaft, complete shaft. This is the front portion. It is a flange shaft. You can see the flange here. This is a flange crankshaft with different throws. This is one throw, this is another throw. You can see the counterweights here, which are meant for damping purpose. We had seen in our slides what are the dampers. You can see here the dampers. You can further see here two holes. There are big holes here, two holes which have got the spool pins inside for damping purpose. We have seen in the slides it gives a pendulum effect. So this is complete for balancing the crankshaft. This is your camshaft. This is your camshaft here, and this is your camshaft timing gear. Now you can see here, this is your crankshaft gear, timing gear. This is your camshaft timing gear. And you can see the difference in the sizes of the two gears. We have seen the ratio of the gear teeth. We have seen the ratio, we have seen in our slides, we have read in our slides that the camshaft timing gear is twice that of the crankshaft gear. So you can see here, this is your camshaft timing gear, this is your crankshaft timing gear. So we can see the movement of the gears now. You see, I'm rotating the shaft, crankshaft. You can see the movement of the gears here. You can see the gear train, how it is moving. The movement of the crankshaft, the movement of the camshaft. You can see the different lobes here. See the different lobes, and these are the points where the tappets or the lifters are fitted. So the movement, you can see the movement of the shaft, crankshaft, camshaft, the timing gears. Now this is your crank pin area. This is your crank pin. This is your crank pin journal. Here you have the connecting rod. This is your connecting rod here, and this connecting rod fits in this, on this crank pin. So now this goes like this, and this is your piston pin. This piston pin goes through the other end of the connecting rod. This is your piston here. You can see the piston. You can see the piston pin holes here. These are your piston pin holes. This is how the piston pin will go inside, and through the connecting rod it connects to the crankshaft. So this is how your connecting rod and the piston is fitted through the piston pin. You can see here, this is how your piston is connected to the crankshaft. Rotary motion of the crankshaft, you can see this, the rotary motion of the crankshaft is further converted to the reciprocating motion of the piston. So this is your second half of the crankcase. We have split the crankcase in two halves. This is the other half. Now on this half, you can see this is the place where your crankshaft rests. Now these are your main bearings. We will remove this. We can remove this. See, this is your plain bearing. This is your crank, and this is the place where your crankshaft rests here. So these are your plain bearings. This bearing, you can see here, this bearing, this is your forward bearing. We also call it a thrust bearing. And this, we will see in the lubrication how these bearings are lubricated. This is, and this bearing is different from these bearings. The forward bearing or the thrust bearing is a flanged bearing. So this is your forward bearing. We have removed this. This is your forward bearing or the thrust bearing. Here you can see this bearing is flanged. You can see the flange here, and the rear bearings, the rear main bearings, they are normal plain bearings. So you can see the area here. You can see the area here. Here your forward bearing, your crankshaft is laid down. So this is, you can see these holes. These are the holes where your tappets or the lifters are fitted. These are your holes where your tappets or lifters are fitted. This is your tappet. You can see here, this is your tappet. It goes inside like this and it is fitted. It is further lifts your push rod. We've seen in our earlier slides how this mechanism functions. So this is just to demonstrate, this is just to show you where the tappet fits in and how does it look like. Now this engine in front of you, this is a wet sump system. We have seen in our slides of the lubrications chapter that there are two types of lubrication systems, a dry sump system and a wet sump system. This particular engine is a wet sump lubrication system. In the wet sump lubrication system, as we know that there is no separate oil tank, there is no independent oil tank. The oil is stored in the crankcase or the sump. So this, as I have told you, that this is your wet sump lubrication system. So I'll show you the sump. The sump, this is your sump here. Here you can see this is your sump where your oil is stored. This is just mounted below the crankcase. This is mounted at the bottom of the crankcase. Now we have also seen in our slides that the oil is lifted by the means of a suction screen. So this is your suction screen here. You can see this is fixed here in the sump. The oil pump will lift the oil from this sump. This is your sump and oil is here. This is deep inside the oil. The oil is filtered through this mesh screen. The oil is filtered through this mesh screen and is sucked by the pump in the oil line to the oil pump. After the oil is lifted from the sump, it comes to your pressure pump, the oil pressure pump. This is your pump here. This pump, you can see this is a gear type pump. We have also seen in our slides the different types of pumps. You can see this is your gear type pump. You can see two gears here. These are the two gears and this is your gear housing. Before the oil enters the pump, it comes to a manifold and from the manifold the oil is picked by these gears. These gears, the oil travels between the gear and the gear housing. So between the gear and the gear housing, the oil is traveling. It gets pressurized. Now there are two gears, this one and the other one. One gear, you can see the movement of these gears. When the gears are moving, so one is moving in the clockwise direction, the other is moving in the counterclockwise direction. Now as the gears move, the oil is picked up here, it is pressurized between the gears and the pump housing and the housing. After getting pressurized, the oil is further sent to the engine. So I have removed this oil pump from the crankcase. You can see these are your two gears. I am removing this gear also and the other gear also. So see, the two gears have been removed. We have removed the two gears. In our earlier chapter, we have studied that the shaft is a splined shaft. You can see this is a splined shaft here and the two gears. So these two gears, after pressurizing, you can see the internal housing of the pump. These are the two gears And now you can see this is your outlet here. There is an outlet inside. You can see this one, this is your outlet. After the oil is pressurized, it goes through the outlet, through this outlet to the engine. Within this oil pump housing, you can see this is your oil pressure screen. This is to filter the oil. This is your pressure screen here. This is housed in this unit. Then we have the relief valve here. This is your oil pressure relief valve. We have seen in our slides what is the function of the relief valve. This is just here to demonstrate you how is the pressure relief valve like. You can see this is spring loaded. So this is your relief valve and it goes inside like this. It is screwed in like this. So in this housing, this is your bypass valve. This is also spring loaded. This will come out and you can see the spring here and the ball here. It is mounted like this. You can see the spring and the ball. This is your bypass valve we have just seen. This is, you can see the ball, the spring. It is a spring loaded bypass valve and it fits in this housing. It goes in like this. It will go in, goes like this and is screwed in. Coming to the oil pump again, see these are the two gears. This shaft, the other end of the shaft, you can see here this shaft, this fits in this gear. You can see this is your camshaft timing gear. This shaft is fitted, it meshes with this gear, it goes in this gear, this shaft drives this gear. So this becomes your driving gear and this becomes your driven gear. You can see the movement. This is your drive gear and this is your driven gear. So the direction of rotation of both the gears is opposite. The drive gear is rotating clockwise, the driven gear is rotating counterclockwise. So this drive gear meshes with the camshaft timing gear. We have seen in our earlier slides, in our earlier chapter, we have seen how the oil pump is connected to the camshaft timing gear. That is why we call this an engine driven gear. It is a positive displacement engine driven gear. Another important component of the lubrication system is the oil filter. You can see this is a full flow spin on filter. We have seen in our slides, we have studied about this filter. This is a full flow spin on filter. It has a complete housing, disposable housing, and we have cut one filter for demonstration purpose. See, this is one filter. It is the internal element is like this, and this is how your filter looks like. The filter has got a relief valve within this housing. It is a spring unit here. It is fitted on the top and it has a entry drain back valve. This is the bottom one and this has an entry drain back valve which we have seen in our slides. Now you can see this filter here. You can see the holes here. These are your inlet holes. The oil goes through these holes. Inside the filter, it is moving around, the complete oil is moving around the filter, and after the oil is filtered, the filtered oil comes out through this opening. So this is your outlet. These holes are your inlet to the oil filter and this is your outlet to the oil filter. There are different types of oil filters, different makes of filters available, and this filter is used on Lycoming engines. This is a Champion filter, full flow spin on filter. Another filter, this is this filter is installed on Rotex engines. So different types of filters. The next component we have read about is the oil cooler. So this is your oil cooler. You can see here we have seen there are different lines here. We have read about it in the slides. This is just here to show you how the oil cooler is like. It fits in at this place in the engine. So this is your oil cooler. We have also studied about the oil cooler control valve, temperature control valve. So this is the valve here, the oil temperature thermostat valve. You can see this is your oil temperature thermostat valve. This controls the temperature of the oil going in and out of the oil cooler. So we have seen the different components. Now coming inside the engine, there are a lot of drilled holes here inside the engine. You can see this is the crankshaft. See the hole here. You can see the hole here. They are all meant for lubrication purpose. The oil goes inside these holes. Since it is a wet sump lubrication system, the oil is there, these crankshaft, this is submerged in the oil, and since it is turning, it turns like this. It picks up the oil from the sump, picks up the oil goes in these holes. You can see there is a tube also here. Through this hole there is a tube connected. The oil goes from this tube, comes out of these holes, and also lubricates the connecting rod. The connecting rod, as we have seen earlier, the connecting rod is fixed like this. Here, this hole, oil comes out from this, it lubricates the connecting rod bearing. So you can see different holes, different oil passages. The oil circulates through all these holes, lubricates the crankshaft, the connecting rod, the camshaft. There are different oil passages inside. It will lubricate your camshaft also. Then there are, as we know that these are the openings for the tappets, for the lifters. The oil lubricates the tappets. Here we know that this is the tappet here. The push rod is attached to the tappet like this. You see, there are openings here and here. You can see the oil flows through these openings to the push rod. There are openings, you can see this is a ball end of the push rod. There are holes inside, these are hollow rods. And the oil flows through these openings and lubricates the push rods. These push rods, further the oil comes out of these holes and lubricates the rocker arm. We have seen earlier how the rocker arm looks like. The oil flows through the tappets, the push rods, and it further, you can see the rocker arm here. You can further see the hole inside this where your push rod fits in. The push rod connects to the rocker arm like this. You can see the hole inside the rocker arm. There is a hole on the ball end of the push rod also. So this connects like this. There is further lubrication of the rocker arm and the rocker arm bushings. So we are on the aircraft now, and I want to show you the different lubrication systems. This is Cessna 206 aircraft with the Lycoming IO 540 engine. This is Lycoming IO 540 engine with 6 cylinders. This particular engine has got a wet sump lubrication system. Here, this is the place from where we check the oil level. This is your oil dipstick. With this, we can measure the quantity of oil. So this is your oil dipstick, which goes in like this, and oil can be measured from this dipstick. Here, this is your sump. We call it a wet sump. This is part of the crankcase. where the oil is stored. So this is a wet sump lubrication system. The oil, as I have told, the oil is stored in the sump. The quantity, the oil level can be measured from this dipstick, which is part of our daily inspection. You can see the level of oil. You have to remove the dipstick, put it inside again after cleaning, and check the oil level. So there are graduations, there are marks on the dipstick. The maximum quantity of oil that can be stored in this system is 11 quarts, and you have the 11 quarts graduation here. So we have seen the oil quantity. This white unit which you can see here, this is the oil filter. We have just seen that this is a full flow spin-on filter. It is a Champion filter. Champion is the manufacturer's name, the company which manufactures this oil filter. So this is your oil filter. So whenever we have to change the engine oil, the oil filter is also supposed to be replaced, and the periodicity of replacing the engine oil and oil filter is 50 hours of flying operation or 4 months, whichever is earlier. So either 50 hours or 4 months, whichever is earlier, we have to replace the engine oil and the oil filter. I'll show you in this wet sump system from where we are draining the oil. There is a drain point at the lowest point of the engine. So this is the lowest portion of the sump. This is the drain point. This is the drain plug here. You can see this is wire locked. In order to remove it, we will cut this wire locking, open this drain plug, and the oil will be drained from this point. So once the oil is drained, this plug is again fitted back and wire locked. So this is your drain plug, and in order to replenish the system, in order to fill the oil is filled from the port, from the point where that oil dipstick was there. So from that we remove the dipstick and the oil is filled from that port. Now you see this point, this is your oil suction screen here. Again, this is wire locked. You can see this is wire locked. We will remove the wire locking, and this is screwed in. We will unscrew the area, this thing, and the oil screen can be cleaned. It is a suction screen. So here on the sump, this is your drain point and this is your oil suction screen point. This is your oil pressure relief valve. This is the point where we can adjust the oil pressure setting. We have seen in the slides, this is your lock nut, and it has a slotted head. So we remove this lock nut and we can adjust the setting of the oil pressure. Turning it clockwise increases the pressure, and turning it counterclockwise decreases the pressure. We have seen it in the slides. So this is here just to show you how the oil pressure relief valve is. Another important unit of the lubrication system is the oil cooler. So this is your oil cooler mounted here. You can see it has fins here. We have read about the oil cooler in the slides, and you can see a tubing going out of the oil cooler. So this is your oil cooler on the wet sump lubrication system, and we will now sum up what we have seen on this wet sump lubrication system. We have seen the filler point, we have seen how we measure the oil level, we have seen the oil filter, we have seen the oil pressure relief valve, we have seen the drain point, we have seen the suction screen and the oil cooler. So this is the wet sump lubrication system on Cessna 206 aircraft. Now we will see the other system, which is the dry sump lubrication system on another aircraft. So we have just seen the wet lubrication system. Now we are on another aircraft. This is a Sinus 912 motor glider fitted with a Rotex 912 engine. It has a dry sump lubrication system. So this is your oil tank in the dry sump lubrication system. As we have seen, the oil tank, you have a separate oil tank and independent oil tank. This is your oil tank. There are 3 lines on the oil tank. This is your supply line. This is your line from which the oil is going from the tank to the engine. This is your return line. The oil from the engine after lubricating is coming back to the tank. This is your return line, and this line you can see, this is your vent line to vent the oil tank. We have seen in our slides that the oil tank is also supposed to be vented, so this is your vent line. So this is your oil pump on the dry sump lubrication system. This is your oil pump. This is your oil pressure sensor. This is the sensor from where you can sense the oil pressure. This sensor you can see, this is the sensor for oil temperature. So oil pressure, oil temperature sensors, oil pump, and this black unit you can see, this is the oil filter. As I told earlier that this motor glider, this aircraft has got a Rotex 912 engine. So these kind of filters are used on Rotex engines. So now we will replace the engine oil on this motor glider. As I had told earlier that the frequency of replacement is 50 hours or 4 months, whichever is earlier. So this is the oil tank, and this is the drain plug here. You can see the drain plug here, it is wire locked. We will cut open this wire lock and unscrew the drain plug. The oil will be drained from this tank. Before doing the replenishment, before draining the oil, for oil change you need to do a ground run of the engine. You need to warm the engine so that the complete oil is removed from the system. So now we are going to replace the oil. So please cut this wire lock. So you can see the wire lock being cut. So the wire lock has been removed and the drain plug is being unscrewed. So you can see the drain plug has been removed now, and the oil is coming out. So this is the oil which is being drained from the oil tank. This particular tank and the system has a capacity of 3 liters of oil. So this oil is being drained. Now see this, the complete oil has come out. Now we will put the plug back. The drain plug, now we can put it back. See, the drain plug has been put back, and now we are going to remove the oil filter. So this is your oil filter. Now we will remove the oil filter, and you can see how the filter is being removed. So this is your oil filter removal tool. You see, this is your oil filter removal tool. This goes around the filter and we will unscrew the filter with the help of this tool. Just see how it is done. Now the oil filter is being unscrewed. See, some oil is also going to come out from this thing, and the oil filter is now coming out. See this oil filter, this has come out. You can see the internal thing also. We have seen in our earlier slides also, this is a Rotex 912 engine, so this type of filter is there. As part of our inspection during the oil change, we will cut open this filter and we will see the filter element inside. The filter element inspection is required to see whether there is any metal particle which is abrased or there is any metal abrasion inside the system. This is a new oil filter, and we put some oil in this. This is Aeroshell Oil Sport Plus 4, which is used in this machine. So before installing this filter, we fill this filter with some oil. This filter is filled with oil now, and we will install this new filter on the engine. The filter is now being installed, and initially it will be hand tightened. Now see, the filter has been installed, it is hand tightened now. As I had told you earlier, this is the drain plug. Now before putting in fresh oil, we have to torque the drain plug. We torque it with the help of a torque wrench, and the torque required to be given here is 25 Newton meters. So you can see here, we will give the torque 25 Newton meters here with the help of a torque wrench. You see, the drain plug is being tightened by giving 25 Newton meters torque. See, it is 25 Newton meters torque has been given, and we are going to wire lock the drain plug. So now the drain plug is tightened, it is wire locked, it will be wire locked now, and here you can see this is the oil filler cap. This is the filler cap here. And this is the dipstick inside. You can see this dipstick. This is your minimum mark and this is your maximum mark. So this is your minimum and this is your maximum. And this is the filling point also. From here we are going to put in the fresh oil. This oil, Aeroshell Oil Sport Plus 4, this oil is put in. The maximum quantity is 3 liters. So the system requires 3 liters of oil. So this was 1 liter. This was 1 liter. Similarly, we will put 2 more liters. So this is how the oil, fresh oil is put in. So you have seen the wet system lubrication, you have seen the dry sump lubrication system, and you have seen how we replace oil from a dry sump lubrication system. In the wet sump lubrication system also the oil replacement is almost the same, where you have seen the drain plug. We unscrew the drain plug, drain the oil, put the drain plug back, wire lock it, and then replenish it with the fresh oil. Before replenishing it with the fresh oil, the oil filter, again a Champion oil filter full flow spin-on filter, is replaced. So now this filter element has been cut open. You can see the inside of the filter element. Now we are going to cut this element, and this is a paper pleats you can see here. This will be cut open, and we are going to do the inspection of this paper element to see if there is any metal particle which has come along with the engine oil. So the part of the filter element has been cut. You can see we have stretched this. You can see it is a paper filter. Now we have to inspect all the pleats. We will inspect at all the creases and look for any metal abrasion here on the front side as well as on the back side. So we don't see any metal particle here, we don't see any abrasion particle here, metal abrasion here. So that means your internal mechanism in the engine, all your rotating parts, they are all fine. There is no abrasion anywhere in the system. So this is one very important check to ensure that your internal system in the engine, all rotating parts are working fine.